In the mid-2000s, WWE went through a series of massively unfortunate events when trying to push their next generation. People on the cusp of the main event just kept falling victim to bad luck for one reason or another. Eddie Guerrero, a guy pegged to sit in WWE's main event scene for years to come, sadly passed in his prime. Rob Van Dam got popped for marijuana usage, so his time on top was quickly ripped away from him, and other guys that WWE pushed like the Great Khali, Chris Masters, and even Vladimir Kozlov, I know you guys remember that Elimination Chamber poster, failed to get over despite the company's best efforts. However, in the case of Mr. Kennedy, things were a little different. He had all the skills, the crowd was behind him, and WWE was ready to give him the keys to the kingdom as one of the biggest superstars of his generation. The only problem? Well, sadly, Mr. Kennedy is known amongst wrestling fans as maybe the unluckiest WWE superstar in history. But hey guys, my name is Gresh from Wrestleology, and today, let us go through Mr. Kennedy's career to see exactly what went wrong during his run in WWE. Coming out of OVW, it was clear that Kennedy already had the eyes of WWE's upper management following him. Literally, he was named Mr. Kennedy because Kennedy is Vince's middle name. And right out of the gate, Kennedy was handed not only an undefeated streak, but also a fun character quirk that immediately hooked the audience. Grabbing the mic during his entrance, Kennedy would proceed to introduce himself in an over-the-top way, leaving a lasting memory in the minds of those watching. So with the support of WWE and the attention of the fans, Kennedy's first pay-per-view bout was scheduled against veteran of the locker room, Hardcore Holly. There, he would pick up his first big victory at No Mercy before soon suffering his first loss to Eddie Guerrero. Despite the match setting up a potential feud between them, with Guerrero cheating to break the undefeated streak of Kennedy, this would sadly be the first unfortunate thing to happen during Kennedy's career. Following this bout on SmackDown, Guerrero would soon pass away, with Kennedy's first loss now forever linked to Eddie's final match. Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero. A chilling beginning for Kennedy's career for sure, with Kennedy only speaking highly of the match in the years since. Of course, it's a sad memory for Kennedy, but one that he seems to value and respect as being the last opponent of one of the greatest superstars of all time. But the bad luck would only continue for Kennedy, as during a tour in Italy, he suffered his first injury, taking him off TV for 7 months. But when he returned, he was almost immediately seeing an improvement in his career, as the injury did not halt his momentum in the eyes of the fans. Kennedy would mix it up with the main event star Batista at the Great American Bash. He even defeated the Animal by disqualification, technically picking up a victory over one of SmackDown's top babyface superstars. Of course, this is Mr. Kennedy we're talking about. So he did leave the match with his own share of damage, requiring 20 stitches in his head after being thrown into the steel steps. Even then though, Kennedy would continue to mix it up with the upper echelon of WWE. During the SummerSlam tag team match between DX and the team of Shane and Vince McMahon, Kennedy would run down with the likes of William Regal and the Big Show to help the McMahons in their assault on DX. Again, think about the people Kennedy is interacting with here. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and even Vince McMahon himself at the time. And it didn't stop at SummerSlam, as Kennedy would continue to act as a hired henchman for the McMahons throughout their feud with DX. And as this was happening, Kennedy would continue to appear on SmackDown, eventually winning the United States Championship on the September 1st edition of the show. With Kennedy capturing his first taste of gold in the company, his ego grew exponentially. A week after winning the belt, Kennedy claimed to be above the entire SmackDown roster, saying that he's beaten the best that the blue brand has to offer. However, the fear of the dead man would quickly enter Kennedy, as a match was made between Kennedy and the Undertaker for No Mercy. After looking to actually have Taker's number, Kennedy attempted to use his United States title as a weapon, but after it was intercepted by the dead man, Taker would then slam the belt in Kennedy's face, giving him a disqualification victory. Yes, Kennedy stole a victory over yet another top SmackDown performer. Their feud would continue on for the next few months, with Taker distracting Kennedy during a title defense against Chris Benoit in order for Benoit to take home the gold, and this would infuriate Kennedy, who would soon find an unlikely partner in the recently debuted MVP. From there, the two would target both Taker and Kane as the Brothers of Destruction were put up against two of the fastest rising stars on SmackDown. At Survivor Series, Kennedy would once again steal a victory over Taker, this time with the assistance of MVP during a First Blood match. With Kennedy now stealing multiple victories over Taker, and with the feud only growing more intense over the next few weeks, one final match was made between them for Armageddon. The last ride match took place with Taker finally earning a victory over the loudmouth rookie after nailing him with a tombstone piledriver on top of a hearse. From there, Taker threw him into the back of the car and drove away, writing Kennedy off of TV for a short little while. A few weeks later, Kennedy returned to target the World Heavyweight Championship, earning a shot at Batista's title at the Royal Rumble event. There, he would lose to the Animal before looking for a new road to WrestleMania. And with his dreams of walking into the show as a world champion taken away from him, Kennedy would fight for a new opportunity. So, at WrestleMania 23, Mr. Kennedy entered the Money in the Bank ladder match, and after a chaotic fight with the likes of Edge, Randy Orton, and Jeff Hardy, Kennedy was able to climb up the ladder, knock down CM Punk, and retrieve the briefcase. After a few years of the company showing interest in Mr. Kennedy, he finally had a golden opportunity for world title success. But that bad luck unfortunately decided to strike Kennedy's career once again following his victory. Over the next month, several horribly timed things happened. For one, Kennedy had been told that he had sustained a tricep injury that was set to take him out for over half a year. However, the issue with this was that the then World Heavyweight Champion, The Undertaker, was holding the title while being injured himself, so he needed to drop the title as soon as possible pretty much. So on Raw, Kennedy was coerced into a match against Edge over the briefcase, with Edge attacking him before the bell even rang to pick up the cheap victory. That Friday, Edge cashed in on Taker to become the world champion, writing Taker off of TV as well. But after the cash-in, Kennedy once again checked in with the doctors, and after a few more tests, the injury was discovered to be a lot less serious than originally thought. The recovery time went from about 5 to 7 months to more like 5 to 7 weeks. So in theory, Kennedy could have just held onto the briefcase if the doctors had discovered the misdiagnosis a little bit sooner. Unfortunately for him though, that was just a little too late. After healing back up, Kennedy would return as a new member of the Raw roster though, and there, following this devastating blow to his career, he would immediately try to get back on track by targeting Umaga's Intercontinental title. However, after failing to capture the gold at SummerSlam, another major blow to his career would take place once again. Now, bear in mind, despite his bad luck so far, WWE still had high hopes for him, specifically Mr. McMahon, who had a major storyline planned for him. On TV, it was revealed that Vince had an illegitimate son, with someone on the roster set to be revealed as the newest member of the McMahon family, and this person was going to be Mr. Kennedy. However, in another moment of bad luck, the storyline was unfolding only several weeks after the Chris Benoit incident. And as a part of the fallout of that incident, WWE's wellness policy really cracked down on the drug use going on in the roster. Because of this, WWE discovered that 11 superstars were being prescribed steroids, with WWE forced to suspend and punish those found guilty of taking them. Mr. Kennedy was on that list. And since this was before the reveal, Vince was forced to choose a last-minute replacement as his son, the notorious Hornswoggle. Yeah, you just got reminded of it. Kennedy being popped for steroids left us with one of the most underwhelming reveals in Raw history. But more about that whole debacle in a different video. For now, with Mr. Kennedy once again having his golden opportunity ripped away from him, Kennedy would soon return, still hovering around the main event scene. Kennedy would feud with the likes of John Cena, Jeff Hardy, and Shawn Michaels over the next few months. He even debuted a new finishing move, the mic check, on his hunt to re-establish himself as a world title contender. Eventually, he saw another opportunity for success at WrestleMania 24. Like the year prior, Kennedy entered the match in the hopes of walking away as a two-time Mr. Money in the Bank. But after stealing the briefcase from him the year prior, CM Punk would go on to win his first Money in the Bank ladder match that year instead. But when one door closes, another opens, with Kennedy taking a leap of absence following WrestleMania to film and star in Behind Enemy Lines Colombia. After this absence, Kennedy would start a feud with the then Raw general manager William Regal. This would turn him into a good guy for the first time in his career, fighting underneath the royal leader of Raw. Regal at this point was at his most powerful as a general manager, with him recently winning the King of the Ring tournament, only stacking the odds ever more in the favor of the GM. This concluded in Kennedy defeating Regal on Raw in a loser gets fired match, leaving Raw without a general manager and Regal without a job. But as soon as things look to be on the upswing for Mr. Kennedy, you know there's a roadblock there to halt his success. This time, it was another injury, as Kennedy dislocated his shoulder on a house show and was forced to sit on the sidelines for a few more months. But then, when he finally did return, it would unfortunately become the final straw in Kennedy's career. On the May 25th episode of Raw, a 5-on-5 tag match was set for his return. Notably, in that match, one of his opponents was a hot-headed Randy Orton. And this was during a time of Randy's more explosive backstage behavior, with him ready to blow up whenever given the opportunity. Sadly, Kennedy accidentally gave him one. During a rather routine backdrop, Kennedy accidentally dropped Orton on his head. Orton, following the match, went backstage and complained to WWE management about Kennedy being an unsafe worker. Now, while the move may have been botched, by no means did it look intentional. I mean, it's pro wrestling. Accidents do happen, especially if you haven't wrestled much in the past year and are a bit rusty in the ring. Either way, that didn't stop Randy from not only complaining about Mr. Kennedy. To make matters worse, he also convinced John Cena to join him in his complaints. Mr. Kennedy was sent packing out of WWE within the week. Kennedy would then go on from there to TNA, where he not only won the TNA World Championship, but also cut a scathing promo in WWE, calling out several names and practices in the company that he had a problem with. Mr. Kennedy, in my opinion, is one of the biggest drop balls in WWE history. And it's funny because I just made a video on them, and yes, I didn't include him because I think he deserves his own video. While there are plenty of examples of WWE failing its superstars throughout their bad booking, this is actually a case of them literally doing everything right with Kennedy. And even Kennedy himself did everything right. He had everything needed to become a main event superstar, with the company always pushing him up the card, only for a fate of bad luck there to halt his momentum. Whether it's through injury, backstage politics, or some combination, Kennedy's time in the spotlight was continuously ripped away from him through really no fault of his own. Sure, there are certain instances where he was doing something wrong, but he still felt very overly punished. But if you have that much bad luck following you, then it is hard for WWE to really want to commit to you. Maybe he'll return in the future, probably not, but sadly, it's hard to imagine that the well untapped potential of Mr. Kennedy will never be taken from again. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for the next video.